The city lights of Los Angeles shimmered like scattered stars across the streets below, but down in a quiet alley behind a small diner, the only light came from a flickering street lamp, and from the soul of a boy who sang to survive. 14-year-old Ethan Miller sat on a cracked wooden crate, his old guitar resting across his knees. The strings were rusted, one was missing, and the body bore more scars than shine. His shoes were torn, his hoodie too thin for the biting night wind, but his voice carried a warmth that could melt even the coldest heart. Every night, Ethan played outside the diner, while his mother cleaned tables inside. They barely made enough to eat, but they had each other, until the night she didn't come back out. 2 months had passed since then. A car accident had taken her life. While she was walking home from her shift, Ethan was left alone, with no family, no home, and no one to hold his shaking hands as he cried himself to sleep under the bridge where they once watched sunsets together. But Ethan remembered her last words, "Keep singing, baby. Your voice will take you places one day." So he kept singing. Day after day, he performed on sidewalks, hoping people would drop a few coins. Most didn't even look his way. Some left, others passed by with headphones in. The world was too busy to hear his song, until one evening, fate stopped to listen. It was a chilly Friday night. A long line had formed outside the California Star Talent Show, a local competition where singers, dancers, and comedians dreamed of being discovered. Inside the brightly lit building, judges sat ready, but outside, Ethan stood, barefoot, listening through the doors. He wanted so badly to be up there. He'd practiced Hotel California for weeks, his mother's favorite song. But he didn't have the entry fee, or even a proper outfit. As the crowd rushed in, Ethan sat quietly at the steps, strumming softly. His voice floated into the night, pure, soulful, and haunting. A man carrying a camera stopped. "Hey, kid," he said, lowering himself to Ethan's level. "That's a beautiful song. What's your name?" "Ethan," the boy whispered, not stopping his playing. "You sound incredible. Why aren't you inside performing?" "I can't afford it," Ethan said simply. The cameraman hesitated, then smiled. "Wait here." He walked inside. Moments later, he returned, with a laminated pass in his hand. "Someone wants to hear you sing," he said. Ethan's heart raced. Inside the auditorium, hundreds of people sat waiting for the next contestant. The stage lights were blinding, the floor trembling from the bass of applause. When Ethan stepped onto the stage, small, nervous, and holding that broken guitar, a ripple of confusion spread across the audience. One of the judges leaned forward. "Son, where are your parents?" Ethan's eyes glistened. "She's listening from the stars tonight." The crowd went silent. "All right," said another judge softly. "What will you be singing?" Ethan took a deep breath. "Hotel California. For my mom." And then, the music began, just him and his guitar. The first note came out shaky, but then something changed. His voice soared, pure, angelic, filled with pain and beauty. Each word carried the weight of his struggle. Every chord spoke of loss, love, and hope. When he reached the chorus, people began to rise from their seats. The judges looked at each other, speechless. It was as if the whole room had forgotten to breathe. A tear slipped down the head judge's cheek. Even the camera operators paused their work, mesmerized. By the time Ethan finished, the auditorium was silent, not from indifference, but for reverence. Then, as if someone had broken a spell, the entire hall erupted into applause. The audience stood, the judges stood, people clapped, cried, and cheered his name. Ethan's hands trembled on his guitar. For the first time since his mother's death, he felt seen. The host ran on stage, eyes wet. "Ladies and gentlemen, I think we just witnessed something truly special." The head judge, a music producer named Daniel Cross, took the microphone. "Ethan," he said, his voice breaking, "I've been in this business for 25 years. I've seen stars rise and fall, but I've never heard a voice that carries this kind of soul. Where have you been hiding?" Ethan smiled shyly. "On the streets, sir." A hush fell again. Daniel stepped forward, knelt beside him, and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're not going back there anymore. You've got a home with us now. I'll make sure of it." The crowd cheered louder than ever. The next morning, clips of his performance flooded social media. "Homeless boy sings Hotel California, makes entire audience cry." Within hours, millions of views poured in. People shared his story across the world. Donations came in, record labels called, and news outlets lined up for interviews. But through it all, Ethan stayed humble. He never forgot the cold nights under the bridge, the hunger, or the pain. He used his newfound fame to raise funds for kids who grew up like he did, voiceless, forgotten, invisible. Months later, standing on the grand stage of the Golden Harmony Awards, Ethan performed once more. As he sang, a gentle breeze swept across the open-air arena. Somewhere above, he felt his mother's presence, proud, smiling, and free. He looked up and whispered, "We made it, Mom." The crowd roared, but Ethan just smiled quietly,